If you're in Europe and still have funds on Binance, last week wasn't just a headline, it was a reminder of how access can change when your crypto sits on someone else's platform. Today, we're breaking down exactly what happened, why it matters, and how self-custody is the way to go if you want to avoid getting into a personal crisis. Let's get into it. Welcome to Crypto Corner, everyone, the video podcast where we talk all things crypto. I'm OJ, crypto investor and analyst for over 10 years now, and today I bring to your attention yet another Binance topic. This time, it's their MICA debacle. If you're not familiar with the terms, MICA means Markets in Crypto Assets Regulation. It's the European Union legal framework for crypto assets and the crypto asset service providers, and it's quite restrictive. It became law in 2023 and began phasing into full effect throughout 2024 up to present day. The core purpose of MICA is to create uniform EU-wide rules on how crypto companies operate, how tokens are being issued, and how the public, the customers, us, are being protected, or I should say, surveilled and monitored, because every crypto transaction, if you're not in the European Union and you're not subject to these regulations, you probably don't know this, but every time we receive a crypto transaction, no matter how small and no matter what crypto it is, it could even be stable coins, into a custodial wallet, meaning exchange or any wallet that is not a cold wallet, we have to then fill in a form where we have to inform that platform who is sending us this crypto. We need to fill in names, we need to fill in details of what is the exchange or the wallet, what type of a wallet it is, what brand it is even. Yeah, I'm not kidding. Even if it's a cold wallet, you have to say what wallet it is. And that also means you have to know exactly who is sending you this amount. So if you're working with customers like I do, sometimes I don't really know what kind of a wallet they used when sending me that transaction. It means I have to send them messages and ask them for these kind of details, which on the other hand is quite unprofessional, but c'est la vie. This is what we have to do in the European Union because of the MICA regulations. So what happened with Binance? How is that related to Binance? Well, as of the 1st of July, Binance officially failed to secure its MICA license. Such license is needed for any crypto service to be able to conduct business on European territory. So it's a big deal that they didn't get the license. And because of that, new European users can no longer sign up or deposit or stake on Binance. The withdrawals are still working, but the platform is now operating in a restricted mode for many in the European Union. And this wasn't a surprise to anyone who's been following the MICA regulations and timeline. For months now, Binance had been sending mixed signals. We're preparing for MICA. We are adjusting services. We are working with the regulators. And then came the sudden freezes. Many EU users woke up one day to emails saying that their accounts were now limited. No deposits, no staking, no new products. Some couldn't rebalance positions, others couldn't convert dust, some couldn't access features that they've used daily. And I say some, not all, because Binance has many entities. Some have the licenses they need, others don't. So it's not all users, but many. And it's nothing catastrophic like your funds are gone or you're locked out of your account, but it's enough friction to remind everyone of a simple truth. When your assets sit on an exchange, you are subject to whatever rules that exchange is forced to follow. And this week proved that again. Binance wasn't the only headline. Bitmex, one of the oldest derivative exchanges in crypto, announced that it's shutting down later this year. I think in September. So at least they give us a little bit of time to prepare. But it's a shame, really. A platform that shaped early crypto trading is closing its doors. Not because users did anything wrong, but because platforms evolve and regulations tighten and companies make decisions that affect millions of people overnight. This is the pattern that we've seen for many years now. Regulations shift, access gets restricted, and every time the people who feel it the most are the ones who keep their assets on platforms that they don't control. But here's the part that most people forget. Companies can restrict access to your assets only if these assets sit on their platform. No exchange can freeze, limit, or lock assets that are already in your self-custody wallet. And what's self-custody? In simple terms, any wallet that gives you full possession of your private keys, thus full custody and control of the assets that you hold. You can move, sign, and access them without needing permission from any exchange or company or any third party. You have complete control over it, and that's the entire point of self-custody. It means that your private keys live with you, not with a company, not with a platform, not with a custodian. You hold the keys, you approve the transactions, and nobody can lock you out. This is why every regulatory wave, every exchange hack, every shutdown always leads back to the same old saying, not your keys, not your coins. You've heard that before, right? I think it was Andreas Antonopoulos who said that probably 11, 12 years ago. It means that if you hold your assets on a custodian platform, like an exchange, then you're at risk. You don't own the private keys to the wallets that your assets are sitting in. The company can freeze them, they can restrict your access, they can even lose them. Almost all exchanges have been hacked and many users lost their money. This is nothing new. I've been reporting about such incidents for over 10 years now. I have a very long blog post, which I update regularly, where I track all the big crypto hacks over the last decade. And I've got more than 300 entries. The link is in the description below if you want to take a look. And when it comes to self-custody wallets, I talk about this all the time. And I do reviews here on this channel. And you probably know that my top choice is for air-gapped devices, like this one from Elipo. Elipo is a great company for cold wallets because they make the most secure yet the most simple to use devices, and they're all air-gapped. So it solves the exact problem that I'm talking about. What the heck is air gaps, I hear you asking? Well, that basically means that the device never connects to Wi-Fi or Bluetooth or USB or any networked interface. No internet exposure. So how does it work then? Well, you've seen this, right? It's a QR code. This is how you transmit data to and from your device. No ports, no cables, no wireless signals, no remote attack surface. It's a physical barrier between you and the private keys and the entire internet. The most robust device that I have in my collection is the Elipo Titan 2.0. This is also their flagship product. It's built like a vault. It's got a metal body, tamper-proof sealing, the latest secure chip inside, and a completely isolated signing environment. It's designed for long-term code storage, for maximum security, and for peace of mind. I have done reviews of this device. I've done tutorials on how to set it up and everything. So you can check this out. Again, I'll drop the links in the description below. But this is now my favorite. This is the X card. It's also by Elipo, and it looks just like any bank card in design and appearance. It's compact, it's simple, and incredibly easy to travel with, and still super secure. I have 4 of them now. I backed up all of my larger, bulkier devices onto these cards, and that changed my entire cold storage workflow. When I travel, I don't have to carry the big devices anymore. They stay in safe storage, and I carry the X cards, all 4 of them, because they're small, they're compact, discreet, and they let me access every cold wallet that I have with just a tap. They use the NFC feature of your phone, so when you need to approve a transaction, all you do is just tap it to your phone. It navigates through a mobile application that you have on your phone. And the best part is that you don't have to carry the card with you all the time. You can check your balances, you can receive transactions into your wallet without the card. The only time you need it is to actually sign transactions. So if you need to send money to someone, or you're going to be doing staking or any other operations, then you just need to tap the card to your phone to approve that operation. That's all you gotta do. This extra piece of firmware is used only when you first set up the card. This is when you get your seed phrase and the private keys are being generated. So it's really important that this is done without connecting to the internet. And it's also why I'm such a fan of this product. Once you have that done, you only need the card and your phone. Also very important is that even if I lose the card and someone else finds it, they cannot sync it to their phone to use it. They don't know my PIN, they don't know my passphrase. most of the time they wouldn't even know how to use it or what it is. So there is no chance that someone else will be using my card with their device. It's not going to happen. So I'm not saying that you have to use this particular device, but it is my top choice right now. It's durable, it's easy to use, and it fits in your wallet like any other card. So it is perfect for travel. For backups, perfect. For everyday code storage access, also perfect. Simple, but really effective. Now let's connect all of this back to the news. Binance froze deposits for new EU users. Bitmex is shutting down later this year. Both events affect people who rely on exchanges for custody. Neither events affect people who rely on self-custody. When your crypto sits on an exchange, you're exposed to regulatory deadlines, licensing issues, regional restrictions, sudden freezes, platform shutdowns, policy changes, compliance adjustments, operational decisions. Do I need to go on? You get the idea. None of this matters when you hold your keys, when you hold your private keys and you have the access, you have the full control. This is the calm, simple, non-dramatic solution to a very chaotic industry. Self-custody isn't about fear, guys. It's about control. And it keeps your access in your hands permanently. So if you want to find out more about these devices that I'm currently using and I really recommend, follow the links in the description below. You can also choose any other cold wallet. I'm not saying you have to use these ones. I do have a free ebook where I reviewed all of the top cold wallets, the ones that I'm using currently, some that I stopped using. I still reviewed them and everything. All of the top devices that you will find currently on the market are in this ebook. You can download it. Again, the link is in the description below, or you can grab this QR code from the screen here, scan it, and make sure to go through it, find out which would be the most ideal one for you, because they all have their pros and cons, and pretty much all of the hardware wallets that are currently on the market are top security devices. So it's more about the user interface, the size, the design. These are probably the things that would matter for you when you're deciding which is the right fit for you. Just go through the devices that I've reviewed in the book and just pick one, any. For most of them, I also have discount codes, so even better. This is everything from me, guys. Make sure to check out the links in the description and also leave a comment, show your support, leave a like, share this with someone else who would benefit from watching it. And while you're here, pick the next one, and I'm gonna see you there.